Hi everyone. Once again, my name is David Mulligan. This is my week 3 video for the UAV and High Technologies course. This week we received the following prompt. What are some key takeaways you have on UAS and their applications? And also, are there applications that weren't discussed or haven't even been thought of? So we'll start by focusing on the first part of that question, some key takeaways that I've had. I think the biggest takeaway for me personally is the realization that UAVs have vastly more applications than just serving as an eye in the sky. So obviously there are tons of benefits to using drones with aerial cameras. You can do surveillance in obscure, hard to reach locations. You have live overhead footage in emergency situations or military engagements. And there's also aerial photography for both recreational or professional purposes. But prior to starting this course, I hadn't really thought of UAVs as having much purpose outside of these applications with aerial cameras. And so some of the most important applications I've learned about in this course, the first one is payload delivery. Payload delivery can be very helpful for supplying equipment to first responders, providing food or medical supplies to victims during search and rescue, or delivering military equipment to the front lines. A big takeaway from this is that UAV lifting technology has made huge developments to the point where it can lift and support hose lines during firefighting efforts. Hose lines exert a lot of force when they spray water out of the nozzles, so it's really impressive to me that drones have become powerful enough to resist this force. In addition to delivering payload, another big application that I learned about is environmental sensing. So UAVs can be equipped with thermal, infrared, or chemical sensors, which provide users with critical information about an area's environmental conditions. Thermal and infrared sensors can also aid with search and rescue, just like payload delivery can. It will locate victims, analyze their conditions, and relay this information back to the first responders. And then chemical sensors are commonly used in firefighting and by other first responders to evaluate the air quality of an emergency zone and its surrounding areas. Something that's really cool about that is that you can do it before firefighters and first responders even step foot in the area. So not only is it keeping other victims or other potential victims safe, it's also keeping the responders safe as well. Now that we've discussed some key takeaways, let's move on to the second part of the question, which is, are there applications that weren't discussed or haven't even been thought of? So I believe this application was touched briefly in one of our lectures, but something I'd really like to learn more about is using UAVs to create defensive lines for firefighters. So as I talked about in my first video, I don't have a ton of experience with drones, especially in a firefighting setting, because I've been studying aerospace engineering. So it was a little bizarre when I started reading about the fact that firefighters will set fires on purpose in order to control them. But as I got more into it, I just started to realize how interesting that was, just that entire process. Specifically, I was reading about a drone called Ignis, which essentially sets intentional fires called backburns to create defensive lines for large-scale fires in rough or unreachable terrain. It sets the fires by carrying a set of small potassium permanganate-filled spheres to the desired altitude. It injects them with an antifreeze, which will mix with the potassium permanganate, and then drops them where you want to set the barrier. Like I said, creating these defensive lines is something firefighters have done for years, but having drones that can do this by reaching great heights, flying through rough terrain, just makes the practice much more widely accessible so that it can be used in a variety of situations that it hadn't previously been able to be used for that tactic. So yeah, these are just some of the applications we've covered regarding UAS technology, as well as some of my own takeaways and just feedback so far. Thank you for watching.